Hello, hello, lovely beings. Welcome to today's episode of Awaken Mindset. 'Tis I, your host and energy guide, Autumn Oakley. So, today's episode, I wanted to chat about don't fear speaking of your spiritual awareness. So, this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with when they come into a new perspective. They're, pursuing a different way of living. You can view that as, spirituality, expanding conscious awareness, just, a different way of wellness of life. So don't fear speaking about that. So this is something that I connect with a lot of people with, and they really feel a lot of self-doubt. They feel a lot of fear of being seen in this new perception, this new way of living that feels authentic to them. And that's what is so important in life, is authenticity. So pursuing authenticity is always the path. So with that as well, really, really, really important, and something like I had to go through healing as well, is the fact that the present moment is about embracing what you're experiencing authentically and, being mindful of what you share perhaps until you gain full clarity of it and how it relates to you, but being authentic in the present moment. And this is something I face coming to a different, way of life, a spiritual path, of viewing things in a different ways. Like when you first kind of awaken to a new perception, a new awareness, we can, talk about it. People kind of talk, a sense of God, connecting with the universe in a different way, their path of spirituality, awakening, expanding consciousness. We all have different terms for kind of the same thing. Is you become aware of your reality. You become aware of the fact the universe is connected with you. You have a lot more potential than perhaps you once perceived. When we talk about coming out of a matrix of things, this perception of a structured mindset. When you awaken to this, it feels like a dream within a dream. And you can view it in different ways and all of these different details. And that was something I didn't know how to express for a long period of time, starting this podcast. And it originally started on the autumn mindset, which I've kind of, separated into Awaken mindset. And that's what it means. It's where you start on your journey of awareness, of awakening, of spirituality, it's going to shift and change. And it's about healing those wounds that are coming up. That is the path. That is the universe sharing with you, be authentic. Authenticity is not a one version of you that you're trying to pursue. Authenticity, I always like to call the magnetic frequency. Being authentic is attracting to you what aligns with you. Because let's be realistic in the fact, we're always going to be posed challenge. But if it is inauthentic to you, it's undesired. We don't want to experience it. And that's what it means to not be in a state of delusion, but in knowing if you're repeating this continuous thing that's manifesting into your life, that's something that's inauthentic to you. It's undesired. If it's manifesting the same connection and you're just why do I keep getting cheated on? Why do I keep, getting these careers that I just fall into burnout? I'm not liking. Patterns are the things we need to face, the things that are coming up in life. So that's the same with spirituality, this new perception of things. So when that is coming up and we have this self-doubt, this fear to express ourselves, that is the thing we need to heal. Stepping into your authenticity in the present moment. And it is there's a different phase of it, I think. Sometimes I maybe shared a little bit too much. We all kind of go through when you have a shifted mindset, a different perception. I think there's a lot of people I connect with, and they always say I just kind of awakened to it. I just kind of surrendered to it, and I, woke up and I see things differently. I left a matrix. They're all worded in a different way. This new perception on life and how we can live in a life of presence, how we're connected with earth, how, there's a deeper meaning to life and how we perceive it and how it is manifesting and being experienced in our lives and how we connect with the universe in that way. It's amazing. It's something we all came here to experience. And there's a lot of people I connect with, they just woke up to that. I did not have that experience. And I know there's a lot of people too who have been on a slow path of going through the stage of self-doubt and healing, and they're struggling to share that. They're struggling to share their new awareness. They fear talking about the things that they really want to talk about. And that's what it comes down to. It's like partaking in a new way of things, regardless if it's like spirituality, like it's authentic to you. If you really want to talk about it, that's kind of what it awakens to you, is like your authenticity. What you become aware of is the fact that like the things you want to start talking about, maybe you didn't in the past. You weren't aware of that, and that's okay. Like, but if it's something like that keeps coming to mind, you want to talk about it. You want to like share that on social media. You want to connect with people, join different groups, like, but you have that fear. That is the thing you need to heal of yourself, to embrace what is feeling authentic to you in the moment. Authenticity is not like this one pursuit of one version of ourselves. Authenticity is really about understanding that the present moment is not about a pursuit of a version of ourselves. It is about letting go and unbecoming what is actually inauthentic to our truth. It's about unbecoming and letting go of like the conditioned ways that we've come to know in society, from, you know, structures throughout our family generations, like what we've come to experience in life. We know what we've experienced up to this point in the school structure of things, in how we live in the world, of how like, you know, we've been taught like through our family, like the mindsets we hold on to, all of the conditioned ways of our mindsets, the programs, the subconscious mind. You know, it's about rewiring those things, and about basically like just like letting go of the fluff, the layers of that onion that are inauthentic to you, to come back to yourself, to the core of who you truly are, your authentic self. So when you are feeling fear to talk about your awareness that has, you know, awakened within you, it's new, it's like spiritual, it's not who you once associated yourself to be, it's okay. It's coming up because that's the trigger you need to face. That is like the element of yourself that is coming up in your ego saying, ooh, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to talk about this. How are people going to judge me? That is the trigger that we need to face, because triggers lead to truth of what we have to face, of our reality and of ourselves, to heal and let those go, that we actually shift and change that embodiment of ourselves to manifest a different experience, to expand awareness, to step into the life that feels authentic to us, because everything is energy. So it comes all down to you living out your authentic truth in whatever way that looks to you. So I think like the biggest thing, like it took me a long period of time, like coming into like an awareness of spirituality and all different things. Like the best advice I can give to you, and like it will take a while to heal that and like get comfortable with that, is understanding like in this present moment, if we stop viewing the fact that like we have this self-doubt, we have this fear of like how people are going to perceive what we're talking about, you sharing what feels authentic to you in this present moment is gonna attract that to you. We manifest in accordance to who we are, and that's how I perceive life. I really perceive life as a mirror, and I didn't perceive it in this way years past, but like I really do see it on a different level now. And I had those wounds that like I didn't want to talk about the spiritual aspect of things. I didn't want to talk about like this awareness, but it was in me kind of like going through all of those things, learning all of these like different elements of spirituality and all of these details that like naturally, like it's a lot of information. It's a lot of things that people call woohoo. But if it feels authentic to you, like you need to embrace that, because if we're being authentic to who we truly are, we're manifesting what's inauthentic. We're manifesting connections because we're not talking about the things we actually want to talk about. We're manifesting that. We're manifesting people, opportunities that don't know that we really want to talk about breath work, about, you know, the spiritual aspects of like what we actually want to share, like conscious growth, like all of these different details. If we are not embracing what is authentic to us, we are attracting what's inauthentic into our lives. And that's really going to, one, lead you into manifesting an experience, a life that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel like it's fulfilling because it's inauthentic to you. You want to be talking about different things. You want to be, you know, sharing those things, and that will manifest. You'll connect with the right people if you are expressing yourself authentically in how you're living life, in the words you're speaking, and just getting more uncomfortable to heal those wounds, let go of those limiting beliefs that, have been built into our society that sometimes we're subconsciously holding on to. You will gradually see, like, as you heal those wounds, as you shift, as you start talking about the things you want to, you will manifest those connections. You will manifest those opportunities. Those things will be presented to you. The universe wants to give you better. Because I really just perceive like we're co-creators in this life. We're co-creating all the time. And I think when we view like manifestation and spirituality, it's like this pursuit of things. And that really is how I used to perceive it. But I no longer perceive it in that way. It's like, it's a part of the mind. It's a part of the structure of like what's been built into society. It's like we have these vision boards, and yes, they come true, but they take a long time, and they are on a path of structure. They are on a path of control. So you manifest them. But what do we hear all the time? That people reach their intentions, their goals, they manifest the things they wanted to, but they don't feel any different. And this always breaks my heart. And it is because we've been taught for such a long period of time to pursue what we perceive we want, what we perceive is going to bring us this fulfillment within ourselves. The soul knows best, but we can't always understand the soul. The soul only speaks to us through excitement of like what actually uplifts our energy and through our intuition. And you will recognize like when you pursue those two things, like the universe manifests the most random things into your life. The most random little miracles throughout the day. You're like, holy shit, like that's so not what I perceived. And that's what I mean. When we focus and approach life through the mind, we manifest through the mind. And that's why we feel unfulfilled in life. That's why we're manifesting a lot of the same. That's why we are stuck in these ways of like structure and like, doing the things in the way that we perceive that we're supposed to because of what we learned over time in society and in life in general. So like getting uncomfortable to like start expressing your truth of like what you want to talk about right now, even if it's not who you were in the past, is a great thing. And what I've come to know is like we attract who we are. We're co-creators at all different periods of time. When you hold a different perception, like in the past, likely maybe you didn't have this like spiritual mindset. Maybe, we're growing. We're always meant to be growing, which means you're learning. You're supposed to be talking about new things, new, expanded perceptions, new like things you've learned, whether that is, your guided meditations that just, channel through you, whether that is talking about, your tarot readings, whether that is talking about intuition, whether that is talking about like your unique experiences with shifting, consciousness and bringing that to your awareness, whether that is talking about breath work, like whether that is talking about like your ayahuasca experience, like talking about the things that we want to, but we feel uncomfortable sharing that, like those are the wounds that we need to face. But when we start talking about those things, it helps us to attract that into our lives, that we connect with the right people to either give us answers of stepping into more of our authenticity, or it aligns us with the people who are really aligned with who we are authentically, because we want to talk about these things. We're excited about these things. So being who you are in the present moment, even if that looks different, because it should look different. It should look like you've grown and changed in your perception in life in general. So that is a good thing. Understand that that is the path actually. And that's something I've come to know, but I didn't perceive at a point in time when I held on to like the self-doubt, the fear of being seen, of talking about, these spiritual aspects, these elements of like what I was experiencing, what shifts in my mindset, how I perceive life now in like co-creation, breath work, like the spiritual aspects, like channeling wisdom, like everything is energy, like we're consciousness, and that's how I perceive things. But I don't hold an identity of things, and that's really just like my perception on life now. It's like I let go of the control to identify with things, because as you grow and expand awareness, perception on your spiritual path, like that is going to shift and change who you are. How you perceive life should be shifting and changing. So be open to that. Don't hold an identity to that. And that comes with the fear of like expressing your elements of like this spiritual aspect, this awakening, like the things you actually want to talk about, and we feel like, oh my God, like no one's gonna resonate with me, no one's gonna like connect with me on that level. Wherever you are in life, there's always points in time throughout our lives, like before a big shift, before you align with people who align with how you perceive things, you were in your old environment. You were in a space of like what you previously manifested in accordance to who you were being, who you like were showing up as a person, how you perceived life. You may have changed, but the universe, you know, it's delayed in that way in manifestation. So that means keep pursuing, keep healing, keep trying to step more into like sharing what you actually want to talk about, like the life you want to be living. Because as you do, like you'll connect with those people. If you're not actually talking about the things you want to talk about, and you're talking, you know, about things that maybe like your connections currently are talking about, but they don't resonate with you. They're gossiping, they're talking about, you know, all of these different things, but it feels dull to you. And I'm not trying to like, you know, criticize or saying there's anything wrong with that. Like we have meaningful connections, we love people, but I talk to so many people about this as well. It's like when you grow, when you change, it is hard and uncomfortable sometimes to understand that, you know, not everyone is going to perceive things in the way you do, but you have to pursue your own path. You have to, you know, learn to get comfortable with continuing the path to embrace who you are authentically. And that comes with like your shift in mindset. That comes with like the things you come to know on your path of awakening, spirituality, like conscious expansion, like all of these different, you know, terms of like how you perceive life and how we connect with the universe, like coming out of a matrix, like all of these different elements. We can word in different ways and perceive it in different ways, but it's really all the same thing. It's like, it's all consciousness, it's all energy, it's all awareness. So you talking about the things you want to is just you stepping more into co-creating a life that you actually want to be living because you're being authentic. It's just like common sense. Like if you're talking about things you don't want to be talking about, who you're connecting with. You're literally at a bar, you're talking about things that, you know, you don't resonate with. You want to be talking about, you know, spiritual growth. You want to be talking about, you know, business. You want to be talking about all of these different elements. But let's say you're at the bar, you know, your current friend group at the time, it's from an old version of yourself, how you were showing up. You had different wounds and then you faced them. And now you no longer want to talk about these things. They make you feel ill. It's just not aligned with you. You recognize, you brought awareness to the fact, like, I don't want to gossip about people. I don't want to talk about the same things day after day after day. I want to feel like I'm growing, expanding. Like I want to talk about like these elements I've come to know. I'm really into breath work. Nobody in my current environment wants to partake in that with me. And I talk to so many people about this. It's like, I ask people like, how is that going for you in your current, you know, connections? And people are like, well, they think I'm woohoo. And that's okay. That's okay. I think like that's a part of it. We can still have connections, but we're meant to grow and change. And not everyone is going to want to take that path. And them taking their unique path might not even align with yours at a different period of time. And that is the thing we need to let go of. That's the thing we kind of need to like understand. And it is a hard part of this journey, is that we feel ties to things. We can't let go of things. And when we feel the fear to talk about the spiritual aspects of like the new things we want to talk about, like we have a hard time letting go. And I think like we don't face that hard truth. It's like, deep down, our soul, intuitively, we know like once we embrace that version of ourselves fully, like we intuitively know our reality is going to change. We intuitively know that like people are going to shift out of our lives. We're going to have to grieve that. We're intuitively going to know that like the people that we've tried to have see things our way, we know that they might not join us on our journey in the same way. We might only connect with them once in a while. We may not connect with them in the future at all. And it's really hard. It's really sad. And that is like, I think the hardest part of like, when we feel the fear of being seen and embodying that new version of ourselves on like in life and like self-development and growth in spirituality and like this new awareness of how you perceive life in general, like intuitively, like we know it's going to bring change we're going to have to grieve relationships. We're going to have to let go of like things, people. We have to leave things behind. And I think that is the thing, like our mind doesn't want us to face a lot of time. So the mind says, in a place out of ego, to say, oh, well, I have a fear of being seen. Oh, well, I don't know how people are going to perceive me. I don't know how to express myself. Is this actually real? Am I just being delusional? I'm not connecting with anyone who sees this stuff in my way. I'm only really seeing this in books that I'm reading and, on like TikTok and like all these different details that you start falling into the mind of questioning what's true, what's not. Like, if it feels good to you, if it feels like, this is what I've experienced, this is what I want to talk about, this feels expansive to me, this feels like I can grow and change and step into what feels authentically me, like that is the path. But the mind doesn't want us to face fact of what our intuition really knows is going to happen. Is like, we need to grieve and let go of things and people. We need to leave things behind. And that is a hard truth to face. But something I recognize too, it's like, it becomes easier on your journey to understand like this different perception, like what is manifesting into your life is for a reason. And what I came to know and like kind of healing like the fear of being seen and all these different details and talking about like these things, I was like, how are people going to perceive me? Like, I want to talk about all of these like spiritual aspects and, breath work and like, channeling like wisdom and all of these things and like what I've learned in like quantum physics and the elements of energy and all of these things, because people are going to say, you're woohoo, you're delusional. What are you even talking about? Like, I got more comfortable with it. And what happened was I was connecting with people who had the same perception as me, out and about, having deep conversations about their experience with it, like how they were feeling like they were aligning with like things in spirituality and self-development, like what felt authentic to them. And that really is the path in understanding like you need to embrace what's authentic to you and start stepping into that and expressing that of yourself, because you will attract that into your life. And that's what brings fulfillment. That's what brings forth opportunities that are meant for you to experience. That's what's going to bring forth the connections. Authenticity, like I like to call it, is the magnetic frequency. We are always co-creating this experience. So it's about letting go of like the versions of ourselves, the perceptions that we've come to know as a society from our past experience, that like you really recognize a shift and change in your life. So that is the uncomfortable truth, but the thing that you should bring to your awareness when you're trying to overcome the fear of being, seen, misunderstood, like starting to express like how you have a shift of like how you perceive life and spirituality and these things, is understanding that you being yourself is going to manifest what's authentic to you so you can start living the life you want to. And that was something I really struggled with for a really long time. It's like deep down I knew, like, if I don't embrace this uncomfortability, if I don't step into that authenticity, if I don't gain like clarity of like what actually feels delusional to me, woohoo, like, and what actually feels authentic to me. Because like we can talk about it, and sometimes people are like, I feel like I'm between two worlds and that sort of thing. And that's kind of like how I felt a lot of the time. And I get that perception. But I think like it's just about focusing on the present moment to understand like, if you're in a space of presence, if you're in a space of like, you feel like you know what the hell you're talking about in ways that are unique to you, like it makes sense to you. It feels good to you. You're in flow. New things are manifesting into your life. Like that is the flow of change. That means you are in the element of like manifesting, co-creating, that like there's change happening. You're not trying to force things all the time. So things are going to come into people's view and into your life as you step into your authenticity. And that is a wonderful perception as well for you when you're feeling that fear of like shifting to expressing yourself in this new way of living, a new perception as you grow and change. Like in life in general, your perception should always be expanding, shifting, changing. So it might not look in the same way as spirituality. Like let that evolve as you evolve. Let that shift as you shift. Like don't hold an identity to things. And think that was me like starting on this spiritual path, is like I perceived all of these elements. Like I was an empath. I was, I would hope we're all empathetic. And I do understand like the element of like psychics and, intuitive readings. And I do understand like all the things that I hear about and I see in different people's perceptions, like energy. And we talk about, all of these different realities and aliens and all of these different things. I see it all. But to stay in a space that feels inauthentic to you is kind of like what I've come to know. It's like you kind of have to question. It means like, yes, have awareness on spirituality, have awareness, like know what's going on. Like, I think that's really good. Like, I see a lot of different perceptions. I believe in all these things. I understand. I experience all these things and I believe it all to be true. I believe everything's energy. But I also I don't want to escape the human experience. And I think that is like a harsh reality as well, with coming into embracing the truth of like what we want to express in our new awareness of spirituality and stepping into the things we want to talk about. Like, express that, like go for that, but also like question like how deep are you into the spiritual aspects? Are you still like having a human experience? And that's something I was unaware of, and I think a lot of people I've connected with, like when you first awaken to the new of spirituality, you come out of like this perception, the matrix, you come to all of these truths. You're seeing all of these different perceptions and all of these different things. You're seeing the truth of like what's been put in the food. You're becoming aware of like this constructed, mindset that you were living, that one, you feel a lot of emotions. You're triggered in that way. You have to heal shit. You're feeling angry. You're like, oh my God, like I need to do all these things. You are on a pursuit of this spiritual path. You're like, I'm an empath. I'm here to shed light. I am, here to like share my wisdom of God. I am here to do all these things. But everything that triggers you is for you to face first. So get intentional with that before you start sharing those things. Getting comfortable sharing and expressing your authenticity in this new way of like how you perceive life, awakening, spirituality, consciousness. Like, it also comes down to the fact, like, if you're triggered, take time to heal those wounds. If you're feeling triggered, share what you're sharing, but like gain clarity of like why you're sharing it. And that was me. I was sharing all of this stuff. I felt intuitively called to like start this podcast and like share all these things. But what was coming forth, like I felt delusional. I had no one to talk to in my current environment. The only thing I was really experiencing was shifts in my like reality, walking around in life. What was manifesting that felt very like synchronistic. It felt very like overwhelming at the time from how I had experienced life. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening? The universe is manifesting all these things. I was like anxious and overwhelmed and I had no one to talk to. And, with that too, like the only thing was manifesting was all of these different perceptions and all of these different people with like tarot readings and all this spiritual stuff on TikTok. Then I got obsessed with that. And then I was like, this is an injustice and I need to like set forth and like do all these things. So I was expressing myself, but I wasn't clear on myself. I wasn't clear on my authenticity. So I think there is a balance to like start expressing yourself, but understand like if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like angry to like share all this stuff, there's a difference between like a higher calling and a pursuit to like find justice in this mindset of what's been conditioned society of like this different path of awareness of like spirituality and all these things, and falling into this state of like triggered wounds. So, and I see this a lot and I've seen it in the past too. It's like you manifest where you are on the spiritual journey. So like when you're starting, you're like, I'm scared to express and talk about the things I want to talk about. Like question what's triggering you, question what's coming up in your reality. Because what I was experiencing when I first had like a shift in awareness, I had no one to talk to. Like I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of self-doubt. I was questioning a lot of things. Like it was a lot. It was really heavy. I thought I was delusional. I had a lot of different experiences that I didn't know how to like talk about, to share with people. And with that, I think as well, like what kind of like came about was like what was manifesting was a lot of people stuck in the spiritual sense of like they weren't facing their triggers, they weren't facing their wounds. They were doing tarot readings, but it was coming to a space of like trust your gut, like you're an empath, the chosen one, and doing all these things. It was more about one, either escaping the human experience and really going like surrender to like everything spiritual. And I love that. I get that. Like I pursue those things. I love those experiences. I love ecstatic dance. I love partaking in like really spiritual, like deep connected, like experiences, events, like healings, like all of these elements. I love that. I love to talk about that. I love to be immersed in that. But I think like there is like an element that I just didn't feel like I resonated with for a long time. I felt like I couldn't fit into. And that was the fact that like with spirituality too, like some people just sometimes fall into the space that they are trying to escape the human experience, which is natural because one, coming out of a mindset of like what you experience in a matrix of things, understanding how like limitless you are, like let's be real in the fact, like that's traumatic. That is traumatic. And that's something like it's really deep to heal. You were already experiencing a lot of struggle. Like we're always experiencing different turmoil and things we have to overcome. Like sometimes it can feel like a constant path of darkness and healing and transmuting that shit. And that's hard, that's heavy. So naturally, like what would we do like as humans, as like just being immersed in life in general? Like that's deep wounds to heal. Like, and like naturally you want to escape the human experience. You come into this new way of spirituality that you're like, wow, you know what? Like I'm immersed in mushrooms. I'm healing. I'm feeling energetically like uplifted. I just surrendered to the universe. I'm letting all of these things just manifest in my life. I let go of responsibility for life. And that was me in a period of time. I just like, I didn't understand why I didn't always resonate with like everyone in the spiritual sense of things. I just was like, this is a little too much for me. But then to some sense, it was also like, I didn't feel like I fit in with like the old way of living where it was like structure and like, you know, focused on like work and money and all of these different details. And I was really trying to just like heal shit. I was alone, embracing my authenticity, sharing knowledge that I was coming forth, like in the ways I thought I knew, like I could express on this podcast, in my blog, like just the journey of like what I was like stepping into and shifting into in those elements. And that's what I came to know, but it takes time because you have to like get on a deep level to understand yourself. You have to get on a deep level to face hard truths, to understand like one, question your triggers. Like on the spiritual path, like if we're like in this state, we're like trying to force our new view onto people because we've awakened to this experience, like face that. We can share knowledge, but from a space of like, I don't care what people do with it. You want to help people, and I want to help people. I want to guide people. I want to be a support for people, but it is understanding as well, like if you're triggered into forcing your view onto someone, like that's coming from a wound, that's coming from a place of control. So that's something to heal of yourself. Like, why is this trigger coming up within me? Because everyone is experiencing life in accordance to what they are willing to perceive of life. That's it. That is it. Regardless if you are on a spiritual journey, you are awakened to a path, like out of a matrix of things. If you are, you know, just, you know, going about life, you're, intrigued in wellness and, you know, health and all of these different details. If you're experiencing a lot of struggle, like wherever you are in life, it's really unfortunate. It's a co-creation of you and the universe. And kind of like what I've experienced, like I've been through so much turmoil. I could never understand why, you know, before awakening to this spiritual path, like why I kept experiencing all this struggle, like chronic illness, like just a lot of darkness all the time. And I could never understand why I felt like I was the only one. And it was because we're all meant to face our reality and align with what feels authentic to us. So talking about the new spirituality that has come forth is a good thing because it's going to attract that to you. But also question, like when you have a shift in your perspective of things, like what's coming up and what's triggering you. And this was the element I was talking about earlier of like, what was coming up in like the tarot readings, like online, they were coming from a wounded space. They were saying the devil this and all that. I embodied a lot of fear. I was unaware of it in my perception, but that's what I was manifesting. I was manifesting all of these different perceptions. I was just stepping into like all of this different awareness of things. And I believe it all. I see it all. But in the end, like I've surrendered to the fact like I know shit. In the end, I am open to everything. But like what feels authentic to me is like I don't hold identity with anything. I just see people in the experience that they're having in accordance to what they're willing to perceive and what they've like embraced and stepped into. And some people, yes, with the spiritual journey, they have kind of stepped into like they're escaping the human experience. And that's not something that I resonated with. It's not something I wanted to do, but it does feel good sometimes. And I get that. And we hear this all the time with like ayahuasca and like with mushrooms. And we hear this with like even just like getting all like, you know, intense with doing like this elements of like, you know, DMT and just like the spiritual sense of things that like we move away and then we completely change who we are. And, you know, now we've joined this group and we only talk about spiritual things, but we're not actually talking about like reality. We're not talking about life. We're not talking about like, how can we actually assist people? How can we actually help people like expand out of this matrix of the reality that they don't want to be experiencing? Where you were suffering in life is where you should actually be like getting intentionally uncomfortable to say like, how can I help people out of this? Because I didn't want to experience that. And that's facing the harsh truth sometimes to understand like when we come into the, like a spiritual space of things, like, are we trying to escape the human experience? Like get really uncomfortable with that and be like, okay, there's a balance and I can still embrace my authenticity, but like to what extent am I actually being, you know, authentic? To what extent am I actually being human? To what extent am I actually helping people and not in this state of like everything is love and light all the time? Like you need to face hard truths, like coming into a space of awareness, of consciousness, of like a path of spirituality is also just coming to the awareness of understanding like that's great. Now, you know, integrate the two into a life that feels authentic to you. And it's hard. It's a hard path, but that's what life is about, doing what feels authentic to you. And it's okay if like you feel like you don't belong to like one side of like the big spiritual aspects of things and you don't feel like you fit in with like typical society as you once felt like you did. Like create your own path, create the life and embodiment of yourself that feels authentic to you. And that is the reality you create. That is what manifests into your life. You are limitless. And this is how I view things. And this is just me talking about it. And I felt so uncomfortable talking about like these perceptions, these things that were manifesting to my life, like how I was perceiving life in accordance to like me stepping into like when I would heal something would manifest within seconds. Like I was just really experiencing a shift of like how we experience co-creation, how we experience life, how we can heal our physical body. Our energy heals us when you experience a different sense of like awareness and things. But I was so afraid for a long time to talk about it because it was what I was experiencing in my perception. So naturally, what do? We question things. Also, coming in this different sense of like where people are on their spiritual path. Like I didn't resonate with everyone. I also didn't resonate with like the old way of living. I couldn't go back to the old jobs. They weren't manifesting my life. The old connections, I didn't feel expansive in them. And it's a sad truth sometimes that we have to set boundaries with, shift and change. So embracing what feels authentic to you is kind of the path that's going to help you into getting out of the self-doubt to express who you are authentically and start manifesting that into your life. And understand that the more you step into the uncomfortability of what feels authentic to you, it's naturally going to shift and change on your spiritual path. You're going to gain new awareness. You're going to gain a new sense of like who you are authentically. What you are willing to see of life and of yourself is what you're going to manifest. And that is like the best other tip that I can give you in trying to talk about the things you want to talk about on the spiritual path and awakening is this tip here. We manifest in accordance to who we are. And I view that like, you know, everything is existence. I view kind of like what I've perceived, what kind of like people share with me what I do believe in. I don't hold anything to, I view everything as a theory. I don't hold an identity to everything. I just kind of say at this moment in time, this resonates with me. And like, that's pretty cool. Like, I love talking about human design. I love talking about like, I'm a projector, but like, I also don't hold like that could be my identity forever. I used to say like, I was like an empath and like I was, you know, all of these different details. I resonate with being a starseed and, you know, a light worker. And like, I still resonate with that. And I still understand these are things. I understand that. Like psychics, I do believe in that. I do understand that. Me, in my unique experience and what feels good to me is understanding like new knowledge, new wisdom, new growth, new expanded awareness and consciousness, new opportunities, connections, everything that is authentic to me, everything that manifests in that's new comes when I let go of an identity I hold on to, and especially on the spiritual path. So that's a part of like an old program of the mind. So when you're on this path of like spiritual awakening and how to express myself, you know, express what you know, express what feels good to you. And like some people like they're talking about like the specific details of like how to awaken your intuition. And like, I do that. I love that. That is something I've mastered. I resonate with that. You know, I don't hold an identity to like one specific thing. I just view everything as like channeling. I view everything as like, I know there's psychics. I know that, you know, there's different entities. I do know like all of these different elements. I see everything. I have this perception of where everyone is perceiving their life, and I see it. And that's where I felt really confused, and that's where I didn't know how to express myself. But this has just really helped me in understanding, like, let go of the identity on your spiritual path. Understand that you can resonate with a lot of different things, but you don't have to hold an identity to it. You could, like I say, at this point in time, I resonate with being a projector. I love talking about human design. It's really expansive to me. But even me letting go of that identity, and I view it as a theory. I view everything as a theory. I'm just like living life in what I'm experiencing, what's being shared to me, like what is working for me, what's helping me grow as a person in self-development and authenticity, in expanding awareness in life in general. Like what kind of manifests is new things when I surrender to like an identity to something, because what we perceive is what we manifest. So if I say I'm this one thing, I will continue to manifest that. I won't allow in new things for knowledge and opportunities. And even just like I surrendered to that, I found out like new knowledge about like different structures and like the specific wounds we need to heal. And when I let go of that identity, I came into, you know, the destiny matrix, and that manifested into my life. Like new knowledge on your spiritual path, new wisdom, like all of the different details of chakras is how I started. I do like talk about chakras and those things. I talk about so many different elements of what I perceive, what I learn, what I know, because I don't even have to search it. I don't seek the knowledge. It comes to you. So when you are embracing your authenticity on the spiritual path of things, start talking about what you want to talk about, and understand that like, don't hold an identity with this one thing. Start talking about like the things you want to talk about. Get uncomfortable with the limiting beliefs that you need to heal of yourself to step into that embodiment, to start attracting those opportunities, those connections in your life. And then at different points in time, you will recognize that like new things, new knowledge will start manifesting in, and you resonate with different things. And this is like really the path like I really associate with like expanding consciousness. It is a process of healing, of shadow work, of like embracing your authenticity, awakening your intuition, of like really just getting into the thick of like what feels authentic to you, living a balanced life of like a human experience and like an awareness of like spirituality of the universe, of like how we interconnect with it, how you are a co-creator in this reality. And like I said, we say it all in different ways. We experience it in the ways that we are willing to experience it. Like if we hold a perception that like things are in a religious sense, like unless we surrender to some of those structures, like we view things in that way. We're not willing to let go of certain details. Like that's how we view them. And like, that's what I mean is like, don't hold an identity to things. Understand like things don't always have to be like in the control of things. How you perceive things is fine. That's unique to you, but that should be growing. It should be expanding. That should be something that shifts over time. And if you feel triggered that like people need to see things your way, that's a trigger you need to face of yourself. So the spiritual path, it's unique. It's fun. It's, you know, something that I didn't want to talk about for a very long time. But it really is like the path to embracing your authenticity. That's where like the wisdom comes from. That's where aligning with like your life, like aligning with the right career, aligning with the right connections is going to come forth, embracing your authenticity. So getting comfortable with talking about these things of like how you've shifted in mindset, awareness, like the things you want to talk about in spirituality, like those are authentic to you. So like talk about those things. Those things are really cool. Like express those things, share that. People need to hear that. And like the thing that I think is really important, what I've come to know is like things manifest into your life and how I perceive it. It's like they manifest in accordance to who you are, like I said. So if this helps you, which it should, like overcoming the fear, the self-doubt, the limiting beliefs that we feel and talking about these things that maybe like, we're like, oh my God, talking about the spiritual stuff. Like I feel really uncomfortable to like express this new part of myself. Like I don't know, people are going to think I'm delusional and like all of these things. We're all delusional. We're all just like spiritual beings here having a human experience. Like you'll learn to get comfortable with that and just be like, tis what it is. And sometimes, yes, like people can perceive that like of you, but it triggers you less. Like there was this one point in time I posted something and it was literally just talking about like vibrations and frequency, and I posted on YouTube and somebody had commented like, vibe, like what are you talking about? Like come back to earth. And at one point in time, like that would have triggered me. Like I would have deleted that. I would have been like, oh my God, this person thinks I'm delusional. I'm like, oh, but those were limiting beliefs I had to let go of. But within seconds, another person commented on the same video and said, wow, this is wisdom. Consider me subscribed. And that's what it means. It's like things manifest into your life as they are meant to, not only for you, but for other people. And this is like the best tip I can give you in getting comfortable talking about your spiritual stuff. Oh, the spiritual things, the person you're stepping into, what feels authentic to you. Understand that like when we feel uncomfortable being seen, when we feel uncomfortable like to talk our truth, to like share different things, what is manifesting is helping you and helping other people. What is manifesting into everyone's experience is something that they need if they're willing to face it. So in that one example with the posts, what had manifested into my life was for me to see what trigger came up in regards to like me sharing different details of spiritual stuff, because I was going through the healing process of like being seen and talking about like alignment and frequency and the things I actually wanted to talk about and how I perceived things. Like what manifested was someone saying I was delusional, but at one point in time that would have triggered me in a different way. But at this point in time, two things manifested. One, that somebody said, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed. And the second one to say like, oh my God, like you're delusional, like come back to earth. That no longer triggered me. And that was the perfect manifestation. That was the perfect reflection that I needed. Like I healed this wound. I healed this element of myself that like, I don't care. And it also brought awareness to the fact that like me talking about the things that I feel I need to talk about was helping that one person who really needed to hear that, who subscribed to my channel. And that's what it means to embrace our authenticity, to share our spiritual knowledge, to embrace this new perception of like life in general. You don't have to call it spiritual. You can just like view it as like how you view life, like being authentic. Like being authentic, sharing what you want to talk about. It's helping you to bring up like when people are reactive with you, like does it trigger you? Okay, if it still triggers you, there's a wound to heal. If it still triggers you, keep facing that until that trigger goes away. And that's what I did. I kept facing that trigger of being seen, of people judging me. I kept facing it. And then over time, like I just didn't care. I just was like, you know what? This is what I want to talk about. I trust my path. I trust my intuitive guidance. I don't know what's going to manifest, but like what I have to share is important and people need to hear it if they choose to. And that is the thing I surrendered to, is that like, that was the perfect example to also share and express the fact that like what is manifesting into everyone's life is the knowledge they need if they wish to face those details. It's knowledge for them to align. It's a knowledge, you know, that they need to heal something. It's knowledge to trigger something within them that maybe they're saying you're delusional, that they need to heal and face, to say, why am I like being rude on social media? Like, well, that's what I mean. what is manifesting into your life is a gift to everyone. Them posting those two opposed things brought awareness to me that I didn't feel triggered in that sense of like how people judge me and talking about the spiritual stuff anymore. I had done that again and again and again, that I began to feel comfortable with that, and that is what it's about. But I also like got really intentional with like what actually felt delusional to me, what actually felt inauthentic, coming into the sense of like spirituality and talking about all of these things that people call woohoo. Like I see it all, I get it all, like I believe in it all, but like I also just like, I just kind of talk about what I want to talk about, and I surrender the fact that like I get to decide the life I want to live. So it doesn't mean I have to talk about the spiritual stuff that doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't mean that I have to like go into old patterns of like a way of society, that I have to resonate with an old version of myself, because that's what I will manifest. Like who we are, we manifest. So when you were on like a spiritual path too, like if you're embodying, like I said, with like the tarot readings, all those things, I was embodying a lot of fear. If you're holding on to those details and you aren't willing to heal those and face those on your spiritual journey, on awakening, on awareness, like you're going to continue to manifest that reality. If you're like stuck in this perception of like, you need to find more truth, you're questioning all these things, you're talking about all the different species and aliens and like, but it's in a space of fear, you are going to manifest that reality. And that's what I recognized. Like I was manifesting that reality, and those things were coming into life. Those things were actually coming about in my experience. But when I followed my intuition, when I healed wounds, when I said, I don't want to embrace the fear of shit, like people were talking about things I was unaware of because they were not manifesting in my life. And I'm not saying to be delusional and like not be present of like what's going on in the world. But what I am saying, like there's a different awareness. Like at one point in time, there's like 3 different things in one part of the world that like people are talking about, and they're all different. They're all different like realities, perceptions. And I know that sounds delusional, but that's what I hear. So that's where it comes to like a different awareness to understand like we feel delusional in that sense when you come to an awareness, because you're looking at these different news feeds, you're looking at like what people are sharing, and they're like, oh my God, there's like this huge thing going on, and someone else is like, I'm here, there's nothing going on. And I know like a lot of it's online, so it's like probably putting people into the state of like confusion and fear, but that's what I mean. Like if you're seeking fear, if you are still holding on to these elements of like embodying fear, embodying self-doubt, embodying like these elements that need to be healed and let go, like you're kind of manifesting that reality. And that's not what we want. We want you to let go of the fear, the self-doubt, the shame, the limiting beliefs. And that's what it means to like awaken on a path of like consciousness, to awaken out of a matrix of things, to awaken to a path of spirituality. It's like I see a lot, but I know nothing. And that's okay to like makes no sense. Like I say that and people are like, what does that even mean? Like I think some people would resonate with me with that. It's like you kind of see everything. You see everything that's going on. It's hard to express to everybody, but like you kind of like it is what it is. Like I see a lot. You know, that is kind of the gift I've come to know. It's like I see the depth of people and their perception. I help to, you know, I wait for invitations if people want to connect with me, to align them, to, you know, help guide them. And, you know, some people, you know, don't want to take the knowledge that they ask for, and that's cool. I just surrender to that. Everyone is basically deciding the life that they want to live. Everyone is deciding what they are co-creating in the willingness to heal and let go of the shit, the elements of themselves, the wounds that they need to heal that have gone down their like family for generations, if they choose to, or if they don't want to face those. And that is what is manifesting into their lives. So yes, that is kind of where I'm at on this journey in my spiritual path. And yes, I know this is not going to resonate with everyone, but that's just how I perceive life. Is like, I see a lot. I know nothing. I kind of surrender to the fact that like, I'm just kind of focused in the now. I'm focused on what feels good to me. I'm focused on the knowledge and wisdom I want to share and give. but like it's very unique to each person. It's very unique to everyone I connect with. It's very unique to like the things I'm aware of, the things that I'm experiencing. And that's what I recognize too. It's like, you know, people will kind of like come in and out of my life and that sort of thing, but they will kind of come back in when they align with where my perception is shifted to, and they're asking me different details that they didn't ask me previously. And that's what it means. It's like you are co-creating. So you expressing the things you want to talk about in, you know, your awareness path and spirituality, like it is going to come into the lives it needs to at that moment. The universe is manifesting exactly what needs to be manifested, because everything is existence, everything is energy, and that's how I view life with quantum physics, with different details, and just like my own life experience. It's like it's all just happening as it's meant to, but it's for you to face the triggers that are coming up within you of what's being presented, to let that shit go and to understand like you have no control over anyone's path. People are going to decide what they want to do, and that is a harsh reality to face, and that is something we need to let go and heal from, and understand like we can step into the spiritual path of like justice, of pursuing our dreams, of getting comfortable and talking about our spirituality to help people, to guide people, to like be that light for people, to bring awareness to the fact that like you were a different version of yourself and you overcame these things, and you can help people through that. That is the path of spirituality, is to face hard truth. It's not to like run away from, you know, the human existence. It's not to, you know, be stuck in these limiting beliefs that we start and continue to manifest like a life that feels inauthentic to us, that we feel alone, and we never really recognize like, why am I connecting with people? It's because we're living out of old patterns. Until we're willing to face and heal those, we will not connect with the people that we are meant to on our soul path, on this journey, that there's deep connection. People see things in the same way that we do. So it is the journey. Like, continue to embrace what you want to talk about in spirituality, and understand like it is manifesting in people's lives, like if it is meant to, and it's either a lesson for you, a lesson for them, a lesson for both, of what triggers you, of what needs to be shifted and changed, a challenge you have to overcome, like whatever it is. So getting comfortable with that is really just kind of like getting comfortable with understanding like you embracing what feels authentic to you in the moment. It's good for everybody. It's good for everybody. And it's either bringing awareness for you to face like the things you need to heal, let go, to like come to a space of inner peace, of healing, of like showing up as an embodied version of yourself out of the healed wounds, out of the conditioned mind. And also like what is triggering other people, of what you're sharing. Like it's manifesting for them for some reason as well. And you don't need to know that. You just need to know if something triggers you, that you need to face something. That if somebody is reaching out to you because they need your assistance of what you shared, and that manifests and you weren't expecting that, you're like, oh my God, this person loves my wisdom. Question that alignment. Question that on your spiritual path, to understand like, does this make me feel good? Like, this is great. Like, somebody needed my knowledge. Like, how can I step into that alignment of my authenticity, my higher calling? How can like I be a light to people? Like, how can I balance between the two? And that is really the path, the journey of like just getting comfortable with talking about the spiritual aspects of things and that awareness, which is like pretty cool. So understand that you healing, you letting go of the conditioned ways that you've come to know, you embracing what feels authentic to you, is actually benefiting everyone. All that is existence, all is energy. And you focusing on the present moment to overcome the limitations that you perceive of what you've come to know just because of society and of life, of what's kind of just been built in, and letting go of that helps to lead you into your authenticity, and you start attracting that. And also like you will really recognize like you will feel more confident and comfortable to talk about your spiritual gifts. You will feel more confident and comfortable to talk about the things you actually want to talk about, that you're inspired by, that you want to pursue. You feel less delulu, because the more that you talk about it, you connect with those opportunities, you connect with those people, you connect with people who see things in your way. And that is the path of authenticity. It's like, if you're not willing to be authentic and stand in your truth and speak what you've come to know, and that awareness, and understand like what you come to know is meant to shift and change over time. The self that you embody now should be shifting and changing, and people at different stages throughout your life are going to view you in different lens of that. That's the path. That's okay. People are going to view you in a lens that you were in a past version of yourself. And they're going to view you in the lens that they hold on their perception of themselves and of life. Life acts as a mirror in that way for us to heal, learn, reflect, let go, embrace our joy, step into our higher calling, and all of those different details. So the spiritual path, it will be unique to you. But I hope that me sharing these really, expansive perceptions and things like I didn't want to talk about for a very prolonged period of time helps to inspire you and perhaps share some wisdom to you on your journey of awareness, awakening, spirituality, and like how you can step more into that embodiment of that, and how you can feel like confident to pursue the things that you want to talk about that have not been like who you were in the past, but you've become aware of, you want to shift into, you want to like step into that embodiment of yourself. And I think that's a really brave thing. It's an amazing thing. It's all about authenticity in the present moment. It's not a pursuit of becoming a certain version of yourself. It's about focusing on the present moment to say like, what is triggering me? What makes me feel authentic? What makes me feel delulu? And kind of just like letting go of the nonsense of like both sides of like the perception of spirituality, the perception of like human structure of like how we've come to know life. And we talk like a matrix of things, like coming into the sense of like letting go of all the crap that just feels inauthentic to you, that leads you into triggers, that leads you into a state that you are not being authentic, you are not experiencing elevated energy and manifestations, you are not experiencing a life that feels exciting, that feels thrilling, that feels like expansive, that you can grow and change. You are not manifesting certain deep connections. You are not manifesting the life and embodiment that you want to be immersed in and living. That is the path. That is the path to let go of all of it, to let go of both sides of like where we view like a spiritual path, a way of like human existence, and just like come between the two to understand like authenticity can look any which way that is unique to you at any point in time on your journey in life. And I think that is like an amazing perspective to have. And it truly just is like the path to everything, the path to awakening and stepping into like the life you want to be living and attracting that authenticity in the present moment, and knowing that that is going to shift over time. Because me being authentic years past looked completely different. Me years past being authentic meant me breaking the boundaries of like setting boundaries, something I've never done before. Me being authentic in the past was like me pushing through the resistance to get on this podcast, to get in front of the screen when I hated being in front of the camera, when I didn't have a voice, when I didn't know who I was. Like being authentic like a few months ago would have been me talking about different aspects. And that's what I mean. Like being authentic is about focusing on the present moment to see like, where's my perception? What feels good to me? What do I actually want to talk about? Like what feels authentic to me, and letting go of all the rest, letting go of the conditioned ways that we've come to know, letting go of the new perceptions like in wellness and spirituality that just like they don't resonate with you. And that's okay. Like try new things, like connect with new people, push through the resistance of your limiting beliefs, get uncomfortable through like the disciplines and try new things, and then just like let go of like just what doesn't feel good, what doesn't feel authentic to you. And then you'll start recognizing like everything will manifest in a way that is unperceived of the mind, that feels like a miracle from the universe. That is how we really step into our true empowered self of co-creation. And that's the thing we want to feel. It's not happiness, because happiness is always defined as contentment. And I always share this. What we want to feel is miraculous. What we want to feel is that like unexpected thing to manifest into our lives, that we feel this energy within us, that's something we hadn't experienced. That's what we want to feel. We want to grieve that shit. So we experience the opposed on the other side of that huge excitement where we drop to our knees and we're like, this is alignment, this is purpose, this is everything that I worked so hard for, which I didn't know I was pursuing in this path unknown of spirituality and all this shadow work and all this healing, all this shit. The path of authenticity is the path of presence and awareness. And that is a truly impactful thing. So I thank you for joining me on today's episode of Awaken Mindset. And I hope that it helps to guide and lead you on your path of authenticity, spirituality, in whatever unique way that looks to you, while also embracing the fact that we are human. We came here to have a human experience, and that's not something to run away from, but something to co-create in your own unique way and to embrace and embody in the biggest, most brightest, authentic version of you, to attract that reality and to manifest that, experience that. And truly, that's my wish for you. So keep shining, lovely beings, and know that I believe in you in your unique way.